Today's guest is the extraordinary Charles Owens, a master tenor saxophonist, composer, and educator with over 25 years of experience captivating audiences. Based in Richmond, Virginia, Charles is a vital force on the local music scene and regularly returns to New York City to perform at iconic venues like Smalls and the Django with his groups. With 14 albums as a leader and countless appearances as a featured soloist, Charles has collaborated with jazz greats such as Brad Mehldau, Kurt Rosenwinkel, and Brian Blade. So join us as we explore his journey, his dedication to musical excellence, and his mission to spread joy through his art. So, Charles, good to see you.
Great to be here, Abe. I really appreciate you asking me to do this, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Charles, I was just looking at your Instagram, and in the bio it says musician living the dream. And
hmm
it just kind of made me smile because in today's 2025, jazz musicians can seem kind of frustrated. Some of them are a little burnt out, but when I just saw that, I'm like, yeah, this guy is happy in his career. So,
Yeah.
talk to me about what's been going on the last year and what's coming up for the new year.
Well, I thank you, man. Thanks for checking it out. And yeah, I definitely have always dreamed about living this life. Even I mean, since I was single digit age, I think. But this year, I think I recorded another trio album, but it's kind of a unique one. It just got released in December. Kind of a unique one because it's the first time I've ever used my drummer Kofi Shepsu on an album. It's also the first time I used Cameron Ralston on an album, although Cameron and I have been playing together a long time. And it's also the first time I recorded in a room with just no sound barriers, no headphones. Just we can hear everybody just from their own sound. And it's also the first time I recorded on piano, which the Charles Owens Trio. Now, if you come to a trio show, it's me playing saxophone and piano.
Hmm.
And so that's been great, a great new addition, a great way to not just express myself in different ways, but also to interact with the group in different ways. Comp for bass solos, come up with like drum shouts on piano that are chordal, and really just like change the timbre of the group just immediately. And that's good for not just the audiences and the band, but just me too. Like I want to hear different stuff than saxophone sometimes too,
Yeah.
as
You
much as I
know,
love it.
um, recording in the studio can bring on its challenges, especially wearing the headphones and people are isolated. Were you able to feel like this is the freest I can be in a studio just in that environment when you're all together like that?
Yes, and the some other things that are behind that decision is like this is something that we grapple with all the time, I think, or at least that I've always grappled with mentally. It's just like I practice my craft and this craft of improvising with a bass and a drummer. We practice it together in a room where we hear each other. And then for us to get an accurate representation of that, it's probably not a great idea to like separate and put in headphones. Like it's just less of an accurate representation. It might be better for the sound engineer, and it is, but for me, as far as like how I create, I need to like hear the actual sound of the bass in my ear, an actual sound of the cymbal, rather than and that's not to say that my records that I've made like that aren't good. I love them and I'm very happy with them. I wouldn't have released them if so, but it was very liberating to sit in to stand in this room and not have any headphones and not have any even separation. There's about 8 videos coming out. A few of them have come out already, and you'll see it's right in the studio. We're just like set up in a circle, and it's so fun, man. It sounds so good.
No, that's great. I mean,
Mhm.
you must have felt so liberated like that. In a music that has so much history to it. There's always the constant change happening with musicians like yourself doing what they're doing. What does it mean for you to create something new in this music that has so much history? Is it, the things you were describing before with the piano and the shout chorus type stuff you meant? Like, can you
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
I
that a
mean,
little bit?
well, sure. Like, I guess the with the piano, with saxophone players, you guys are rhythm section players don't uh, have to really deal with this as much. But like with saxophone players, once you're done playing the melody and or the solo, you're just standing there, and like it's cool and like it's great actually. Like I played quartet gigs, at Smalls for years, just every Friday for 7 years, at Smalls, and like it was quartet, and I was just stand and listen to the band, and I had an amazing time. You can just stand there and close your eyes and listen, you know. But I also really like to play trio now without chords. And to stand there and listen is cool. To comp for bass solos on your horn is okay. Sonny Rollins kind of did it. It was like, it's not exactly like a really involved process. It's more like just playing like really strategic soft notes on your horn to like, but I wanted to interact with the band and play with the band more. And I've always loved playing piano, and, I've always played piano. I even started playing piano before I played saxophone, but I kind of got my 10,000 hours on saxophone before, and I'm
Yeah.
still working on the piano one. But anyway, so and instead of just going on a bass solo, I mean, just a bass solo with drums, now you have chords. And then instead of just drums, the concept in the Charles Owens trio now is that when the drum solo happens, I stay on piano, the bass player plays, and we play behind the drum solo, and it's so fun,
Yeah,
and it
that's
sounds so
awesome.
good.
I like how you say, yeah, I'm just kind of when once I'm done, so I'm just kind of standing around,
Yeah,
because it can feel a little awkward sometimes.
yeah. I mean,
I
like,
mean, at least for me, like when I've played with piano players and I just move to the side. I'm just like, I'm just gonna
yeah, you're
stand
just a
here.
soloist now. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like, I
no,
have other powers, you guys.
yeah.
Guitar players can play chords, motherfucker.
No, that's so funny. I mean, I love how you said that. That's just great. It's just so honest. You know, you talked about you played all these gigs at Smalls, and you return to New York regularly. I know you're in Virginia now. You kind of you go back and forth and everything.
Hmm.
Do you find performing challenging in any way? Like, because a lot of musicians will just say it's where this is home for me, and I don't get nervous or anything. Some people say, oh, it's the audiences or the sounds. Do you find any aspects of it challenging still?
Hmm. That's a really good question, man. Well, I guess to address the nervousness, if it's a gig before Smalls, like I'm certainly not nervous outwardly or mentally, because it's just something that I've done so much. But my stomach still kind of goes like rumbles, and like I still sort of like get a little sort of indigestion. You know what I mean? And it's like just happens. And so I think that's it. And it only, it always happens like right before the gig. I'm like, oh, okay. So my body still is sort of like preparing to go do this. And playing saxophone is crazy physical. It's very physical, but it's also visceral in that it's in your mouth and you're breathing into it, and it's like vibrating your whole body, including your hands and your head.
Yeah, your throat too. I
Throat,
mean,
yeah, it's super intense physical sensation. It's very sensually pleasing, but it's also like you have to be like athletic, literally. But it's not outwardly athletic. It's like the muscles that you have to use in the sax when playing saxophone. It has to be they have to be super in shape, and so anyway, it is quite a physical experience to do it, but I don't find that challenging anymore because the muscles and the apparatus that my body needs to transform into is quite developed and strong, and has a massive amount of at least now a massive amount of stamina, you know.
yeah, and Charles, as I was doing my due diligence to get ready to talk to you, I was just looking at some older YouTube videos and stuff. I love how you were like just playing some Coltrane tunes and stuff like that
Hmm.
at Smalls, and I feel sometimes there's the musicians can feel how do I like they're not sure like, oh, I want to play standards, but I also want to play my own music. So it's kind of like you have the balance to do both of those things.
Hmm.
Is this a
Hmm.
conscious thing you've thought about, like you want to play your own music, but you still got to go back and pay
Yeah.
tribute to the masters? Like you consciously think about this?
I certainly think about paying tribute to the masters every time I play saxophone, and really
Mm.
every time I do anything in music, I pay tribute to the masters and music itself. And but yeah, the standard thing. I was just talking about this with my student who I had right before we did this, and I love composing. And I think compositions should be beautiful and singable. I'm not a big fan of the fast jazz compositions because I just don't think that they are built to last. I don't think that people want to come back and listen to them all the time. I'm a fan of writing beautiful melodies, and if you listen to basically any one of my songs, it's just trying to be a beautiful melody.
Mm.
There's some different levels of complexity as far as the harmony goes. That's cool. But every one of my melodies, I think you want to sing. And that's what I've just always loved. Um, I have written fast jazz tunes in the past, and I just wasn't satisfied with them, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
Was that something you thought about when you started, first writing, or is it
no,
something that happened later on?
no, I just always have wanted, my heart and my soul have always wanted to write pretty melodies. I figured that was the most challenging thing, just to write something beautiful and simple. And, because I'm so into music theory and harmony and all that stuff, it's harder for me to write simple stuff because,
Mm.
these ideas come to my mind. I'm like, oh shit, we could just do this, blah, blah, and like, just try to get myself to just like, all right, man,
Yeah.
try to whittle it down a little bit, my guy, like try to just get it into the little core of simplicity. So like people want to hear it again. Like people want to be like, I want to hear that again. And then like, I want my records to sound really good. So when they put it on their speakers go, and like, they want to, I know that record's going to sound great, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, no,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean,
But
you're,
one thing I wanted to say is that
oh, sure, sure.
my favorite composing, my favorite, I love to compose, but my favorite way of composing is to improvise saxophone solos. So I just want to find good good songs to do that on. Sometimes I write them, sometimes I don't, you know. But also, dude, one other thing, and I'm sorry, this is really important to me, is that I make these arrangements for young tenor sax and other people starting out who want to have a gig and they want to have some cool arrangements, simple arrangement that they can play. They want to just go get a gig out and maybe they have a record of mine and they see 12 songs and it's literally all 12 songs of arrangement that they could just cop,
Mm.
and just like do. And like that's a service that I'm trying to help with the kids, you know what I mean? Like to give them something to play. Just
Well,
like
that's the thing. I mean, going out when you're a youngster and trying to do this is like, stepping on, what are they, like burning fire,
yeah,
what are they, like on the coals that burn,
yeah, yeah,
So you're
walking on
trying
yeah.
to like, let's meet in the middle here. You still have to do the work, but let
Yeah.
me assist you.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you like a cool arrangement for your band to play so you guys will have fun, And like people recognize the song, and I do it for myself, of course. I want a cool arrangement that's fun so people recognize the song. And that's what the great masters did. I mean, like Charlie Parker didn't play All the Things You Are because it was some historical thing that he felt he had to do. It was just a popular song. We know this, you know. And so he wanted to play All the Things You Are. People be like, ah shit, I know All the Things You Are, and then take a crazy solo on it and be like, oh, that's what you guys do. You play a song and then you improvise on the form. Like, what a perfect way to bring people into it. And like I don't consider myself a master, but I want to be a master. And this is one of the things that masters do. If you want to be a master, you have to act like them. You have to do things that they do, you know.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, that they did.
Um, Charles, I kind of have to selfishly ask you a question about playing with Brad Mehldau. That's
Oh,
okay?
no problem. No problem.
He's someone that he's, one of the most influential pianists of today in the last
Hmm.
20 years, um, and so many musicians, other instrumentalists, and singers want to collaborate with Brad Mehldau. And can you talk a little bit about working with him? Because and it's also because you're a piano player too, how that has maybe influenced the way you go about things, working with such a extraordinary piano player.
Mm. Yeah, sure. I met Brad in 1992 when I first started at the new school. I think he was a senior when I was a freshman, and we met each other, and of course, he's such a genius, and he's such a personable person. He's one of those people that when he talks to you, you two are the only people on the planet. You know what I mean? He makes you feel really important when you talk to him, and he's a really he has an incredible personality. Um, and so one of my first gigs that I ever got in New York, which is crazy, was running the Sunday jam session at the Village Gate. And that's where I met everybody. It was my first year in New York, and I got that through the new school, and it was like a boon for me. And also, Brad used to play after the jam session. It would be the Brad Mehldau trio with Ugano Kegu and Leon Parker. And I used to sit, of course, and listen to the whole thing. And
Yeah, there's some bootlegs of that group on YouTube, I think.
yeah, it was just absolutely golden times. I mean, a 20-year-old Charles just graduated high school, he came to New York and like his meeting met Mehldau and like all these, I mean, not just Mehldau, dude, but just so many incredible cats that are, you know, great, still great doing it. But you know, we all knew that Mehldau was a genius, and he was like, you know, he and Joe Farnsworth and Pete Bernstein and Spike and those guys were like the leader of the scene and our peers that we wanted to be like. You know,
Hmm.
Mehldau was playing in Cobb's Mob with John Weber, you know, and Pete Bernstein and Jimmy Cobb and Mehldau. Like, bro, it was, you know, he was already a star. And whenever I was with him, I felt really important and amazing.
Yeah.
And like I'm hanging out with Brad, you know, and we were friends even, but I still we'd go out to eat. He was the one that got me into Fiona Apple, and we're both way into her, you know, and you know, especially after, and then he got, you know, once he got clean and got sober, like, you know, our relationship took another great turn where when we see each other, it was like this really beautiful hang, you know, and so we played together a lot in the 90s, just at Smalls and different places, you know, just ended up on the same stage. I remember one time he was playing the Village Vanguard with Jorge and Larry, and I asked if he wanted to come play the late night at Smalls afterwards. And so he and Jorge came to play, and then I got Avishai Cohen on the bass, and then me and Grant Stewart. It was like a quintet, and it was fucking crazy. You know,
Yeah.
started at 2:30 in the morning, and the whole guy, everybody had just come from the Vanguard. It was insane, dude. So, you know, he's always really generous with his time, and if he likes the way you play, then, you know, it's like, and so
So it's a long relationship that's going back
mhm.
into the
Yeah, since
90s.
since '92, yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that. No,
Yeah,
this is great. People are gonna love you hear people love these stories too, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I
Um,
appreciate you sharing them.
no
You know,
problem, man.
how do you go about finding, you know, you know, I know you're not you know, it's like I want to aspire to be uh a master, but you know, you're such a tremendous player and yeah, I want to
Thank you,
know
man.
how do you go about finding your voice, especially because there's no shortage of saxophonists, you know, that were the, you know, the icons. I don't have to start
Sure.
listing them, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We
was
all
it the
know who they are.
composition or was it improvising by yourself that helped you? Like you talk a little bit about finding your voice.
Yeah. I talk about this with my students often, and you know, I think the first thing that I realized early on is that it was okay for me to try to sound exactly like one of my idols. The first person I was into with Coltrane, and I certainly was trying to sound like him in general, you know, and have his energy and all that. But then, secondly, was Sonny Rollins, and the Sonny Rollins was, you know, the person who I invested a lot of time in trying to sound like, not just improvise and like play his lines, but like literally just trying to recreate a Sonny Rollins tone. You know, and this is a really important step in the evolution of finding your own sound because as young instrumentalists and young players, one of the things that we struggle with is knowing what it feels like to play something great, you know, to be great. How can we just be great? Like we need to know what that feels like. We're not great yet, you
Yeah.
know? So we have to just try to emulate the masters like exactly at one point, you know, in our lives. We have to be like, I'm going to
I'm
really
just gonna
try to sound
interject
like
for
Sonny
one
Rollins.
second if that's
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
Because you mentioned John Coltrane. I did like this transcription of one of his solos, like I
Hmm.
recorded, I put on YouTube.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest with you, I felt more baffled than I did before if I didn't
Yeah.
transcribe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. I totally know what you mean. Yeah, it's not just about the notes that they play, you know, like there's no such thing as jazz harmony. It's just jazz rhythm.
Yeah, it left me more confused. I'm like, I thought I would gain some, you know, but
Right,
it
right.
left me
And I've
not
never
enough.
done a transcription in my life. I've never written down anything in my life. I tried to do a transcription when I was 18, the Coltrane solo on if I could write a book on one of the Working Steeman ones, I think it's relaxing, you know, and I wrote down half of it. I'm like, this takes too much time.
So you never really
Like,
transcribed. I mean,
well, I
like,
did. I mean,
yeah,
like I heard it and I loved the phrase and I analyzed it theoretically and then learned it in all keys and understand it. I just didn't learn it in all keys. I understood theoretically why it sounded good,
got
you
it,
know,
got it.
and then learned it in all keys. And then, you know, I don't really play a lot of licks, every once in a while I'll play like a Sonny Stitt lick or something like that, just to be like, I fucking love this lick, dude. I gotta play it right now. Like when I'm playing rhythm changes, there's so many great Sonny Stitt rhythm changes licks that I just play them because why not, dude?
It's fun, right? Like there's that
Tribute
part.
to him too. It's just like a nod to Sonny Stitt, like you're a genius, dude. I'm still out here playing your shit, like like it's
Yeah, no,
anyway.
that's so great to hear because, sometimes musicians might feel a little like, oh, I don't want to, but you're saying no, just pay tribute. It's
Yeah,
fine.
well, if
It's
yeah, it's you don't have to make records where you sound like Coltrane exactly, but like there has to be a time in your evolution as an instrumentalist and an improviser where you try to sound like Charlie Parker. Like
yeah, no,
you have to.
totally.
It's like what if you just like went for 6 months and really tried to sound like Jim Hall for just that would really do you a lot of good, just like exploring that. And it's not necessarily something you have to do forever, but it's going to affect you. It's like just someone who really speaks to you. I mean, Coltrane is the reason why I play. Like when I was 15, I heard Spiral, and his tone on Spiral is just like it cut through my whole facade of
That was it.
coolness. Yeah.
You got like the chills and stuff, like listening
Well,
to.
I mean, I was like, what if I could possibly express myself like that? And then I was like, well, wait, I could. And I had this epiphany of like, well, Coltrane has a tenor sax. I have a tenor sax. Coltrane's got 10 fingers. So do I. We're working with the same equipment. There's a chance maybe that I could sound something like that. And like, I would really want to express myself musically that way,
No, that's
and that's what
beautiful.
started me on the road.
Charles, I also wanted to ask you about this life as a jazz musician. There's a lot of mystery about it. There's a lot of misconceptions about this life that, we wish more people understood, whether it's outside of this, outside of jazz music, just, the society or even younger jazz musicians trying to get into this business. Are there any misconceptions about this life that you maybe feel strongly about, you wish more people understood?
Well, I think that, you know, jazz or Black American music, shouts Nick Payton, is a very difficult music to learn how to do and execute. But the great thing is that if you learn how to do it, the other music that was introduced to the world in the 20th century uh, is also doable after that. And if you only want to play jazz or swinging Black American music, you only want to do that, you can. But like, I don't only want to do that. And so I do teach. I actually love teaching. It's a secret weapon in being a great instrumentalist and performer, honestly. And everybody that is the performer and teacher that hears this is like nodding, like, "Yep, mm-hmm." Because if you sit all day and you preach the fundamentals to your students, you can't just go to the gig and be hypocritical about it, man. The fundamentals are like right up at the top of your brain, so then you play good. But yeah, you have to play more than just jazz. And let me follow that up by saying there was a period in my life, 7 years, where I did nothing else but listen to jazz from the 30s to the 60s and try to play that music. Practiced it, listened to it, completely, completely forsaken all of pop culture and any kind of like pop music that was happening during that time. It was just I was so dedicated because I felt like I had to learn it, and that's what it took. But once I got to a point where I'm like, I think I know what's happening here, and like I'll never be perfect, and it'll never be like, it'll always be something I can prove on, and I have been since then. But like, I love playing rock music. I love playing music with a backbeat, and I love teaching. And sometimes I'll do wedding gigs. I mean, it's fine, man. I show up and play all those songs that I know, and they pay so much.
Yeah, they
Like,
do.
they pay so much. It's like, yeah, I'll come play like ba-da-da, pay me, dude. Like it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so like it, and this is nothing new, man. Like, and it's not even anything new from music. Any good investment person will tell you to have a diversified portfolio of revenue, and that's just good business, no matter what. So,
It would be like
having
if a restaurant only served one food item and one, mean, granted, there's places that can do it, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
for sure. How many places? A few in the world. Yes. You know, how many people are just going to make, I mean, how many saxophone players are making their money solely on jazz? 10
yeah.
in the world? 10? I don't know.
It's
Solely on just
important for
playing
people to
jike,
know.
you
Yeah,
know?
you got to have a lot of, you know, you got to think about having other things to do.
Well, I mean, think about students, man. I have about, 20 students a week. Are they
20.
all, yeah, are they all going to quit at the same time? No. What could possibly happen? Five at one time? Okay, so then there's 15 left and you can build your studio back up. That's diversified. That's something that's, a good use of time. And teaching is part of my legacy, just like playing,
Do
my
you teach
records
other like if someone wanted to study privately with you, but another instrument you would teach, do you teach them as well or just
all the
saxophone?
time. No, all the time. I
Oh
teach,
wow.
music theory through the piano, teach harmony. I teach obviously saxophone and improvisation, but like I have I have had many students of all different instruments. Like obviously if you play guitar or trumpet, I can't help you with the technique of that really, you know. But we can talk about improvisation and all day, music theory and history of music and how it relates to what we're trying to do. Bob, I mean, you name it. So
Yeah.
it's really great. Oftentimes, one of the most often, I guess, oftentimes I get guitar players, a lot of them, because guitar players are, what they do is they feel locked into the shapes that they have to like, guitar players have the same two voicings for a half diminished chord that
Yeah.
I've heard. Literally, like you see a half diminished minor seven flat five. There's two ways a guitar player will do it. Just like because it fits in the grid or whatever. And I'm sure that you know many more. And I'm not, when I say stuff like that, it's just like to get people's attention. Obviously, there's exceptions. Pete Bernstein has a lot of different ways he'll play half diminished chord. But when my students come to me, they feel trapped into this guitar world of like, okay, I have to play this shape, I have to play this shape. And it's refreshing for me to try to teach it to them because I'm like, well, if it's on the neck, you got to find it, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you just have to
you know?
combine the notes that are, you know what I mean, and add the
Yeah.
colors. I mean, it's just, but that's a whole other conversation. You know what I mean?
Oh
Talk
yeah. No,
about
no
half,
doubt.
we'll have to do another podcast, talk about half diminished.
Let's do it, man.
No, this is great. Charles, before we wrap up, um, let's we started things off on a positive note. Let's end it on a positive note as well.
Sure.
Just like I said, you said you were living the dream. Um, what do you feel most grateful for today, January 9th, 2025?
Well, I bought a house in 2020, and I've never owned a house, nor did I ever think I was going to. And I bought that with money that I made from teaching and playing music, which is an incredible achievement in my mind.
Yeah.
And I love this house, and it's been really great and rewarding to own it. It's been a lot of money, but whatever. I'm really grateful to John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins and Joe Henderson and Wayne Shorter, to that they're constant guides in my life of what to do, and how to act and how to write. And I'm really thankful to my wife for 22 years, and I'm thankful to myself because like I really, you know, um, I'm very independent, let's say, and I really have done a lot for myself by myself in my life.
Yeah.
And whether I wanted to or not, that's where I was,
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I've had the strength to keep going. I was an abused kid when I was abused and neglected, and I broke that cycle with my kids. My kids are not abused nor neglected. They're loved and nourished and cherished, and that's a reflection. They are a reflection of that if you meet them. They're now 20 and 22, but like they're great kids, and they're great people and they're
You
not
look like
traumatized.
you could be in your late 20s, you know what I mean?
Thanks, man. It's a little gray for that,
Yeah.
but I am 52. I was born in 72.
Yeah. I thought you were much younger.
Thank you, bro. It's music, dude. It keeps you young for
No,
real.
you look I mean, I mean 52 is not old, but
It's
I
not
thought you were
young.
in I thought you were in like your early 40s.
Thanks, man. I don't smoke cigarettes. I haven't had alcohol in like 15 years. I'm vegan. I try to exercise. I do a lot of gigs. I have a lot of friends that are not just 52-year-old white men. I have a lot of female, young people, old people. It's important, man. you know.
Yeah, next time you go to Philly, you got to go to the best vegan restaurant,
Oh, let's
Monster
go, man.
Vegan.
I'm ready. I love it.
It's
I'm so
like,
ready to throw down.
no, this has been great. What's where's your website, social media, and all that? We just want to plug that really quickly.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the website is charlesowensmusic.com, and it'll just basically, have just some my bio and some pictures and a way to contact me, and then links to my socials. My socials are generally Chaz Owens, ChasOwens. That's my Instagram, and I am on Facebook, Charles Owens. But I'm most active on Instagram, and I do TikTok too, Chaz Owens, same as my Instagram. And my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Charles Owens, and there's a bunch of stuff that I'm constantly uploading great videos of not just myself, but some of my friends playing too.
Awesome. No, thanks so much.
It was great to be here, man.